Hi, and welcome back. Filters come in many subtle different flavors, but most of them work in the exact same way. Today though, we'll look at something quite different, the Eowave Tempête Magnetique, which translates to magnetic storm. It's an interesting sonic playground that holds 4 independent multimode filters. The filters can be synced and routed in many ways, for example for stereo sounds. It can function as sound generator and synth voice all on its own. It can be a single complex filter or signal processor. As well as an experimental sound, percussion and glitch machine with a built-in ping and envelope follower. And it offers a great modulatable built-in cross-modulation section. If you like to support my videos or you want to get access to PDF sheets with hundreds of patch ideas I used in my videos, have a look at my Patreon. You can also support my channel through affiliate links in the video description. But now, let's dive right in. The Tempête Magnetique is a module I have to explain in several layers, starting with looking at the module as a quad filter. Of course, if you like audio demos first, you can use the timeline to jump straight to those. The module holds 4 identical 12 dB per octave filters, called A, B, C, and D. These can function completely independent. Each filter has an input, an output, and a modulation input controlling the filter frequency. Of course, each filter has a manual frequency control as well as a resonance control knob. Each filter also has a mode switch selectable between high pass, band pass, and low pass. And finally, filters A and C have an input gain offering a lot of saturation. The next level of this filter is best explained by looking at the module as 2 filter pairs. Filter A and B form pair X and filter D and C form pair Y. Each pair has the same features, expanding the possibilities of solo filters. Each filter pair has a modulation input with attenuator. This controls both filters in the pair at the same time. How the filters in each pair are used is set by this switch. It can either chain the filters in series, meaning the output of the first is sent to the input of the second, or in parallel, meaning the input of the first filter is sent to both filters at the same time. Each pair has a sync switch. With sync on, the filter cutoff frequency of the second filter follows the first, meaning the knob setting of the second is overruled, so you can control both filters with a single knob. Using output B with the filters in series creates a 24 dB per octave filter, with more pronounced stacked resonance. Each pair also has a sum output. Pay attention though, this always sums the sound of both filters, regardless of whether they are used in series or parallel. When used in series, summing the filters leads to interesting crossover filtering sounds. The next level is looking at this as a single very complex filter. Because the inputs are normaled, you can use input A to feed all 4 filters at the same time. Similarly, if you don't use the sum output of the first pair, the sum output of the second pair outputs the sum of all 4 filters. You can use this sync switch in the middle to sync the first pair to the second and control all filters with a single frequency control knob. Depending on how you patch the module, you can use this setup to create a single 48 dB per octave filter with brutal resonance. And we're not done yet, because there are a couple of special features. The first one is a built-in envelope follower. This circuit has its own input if you want to use an external signal, but the input is normaled to the first input of A. You can set the sensitivity and envelope decay of the circuit, and you can use the switches here to select if the created envelope is modulating the filter cutoff of both or the second filter in a pair. And you can use the attenuators to dial in how much envelope modulation is applied. You can use the envelope follower circuit with audio or things like gates, triggers, or of course regular envelopes. Then there is a built-in cross-modulation section. This connects the output of each pair to the modulation input of the other pair. So that's out X to mod Y and out Y to mod X. The slider in the middle can be used to dial in how much cross-modulation is applied. But remember, the attenuators of each pair's modulation input are still used to set the maximum depth of modulation. The cross-modulation amount slider also has a CV input, in which case the slider functions as an attenuator for the incoming signal. And last but not least, the module has a ping input here. This input converts any gate input into a very short trigger. That signal is normaled to the first audio input, which in turn is normaled to the envelope follower. The input is sensitive to input strength, so it's worth exploring attenuating or gaining signals sent to it. It can be used to add some rhythmic elements to a patch, or of course create percussive sounds. Similar to the module overview, I will demo patches in a few different sections, starting with using the module as individual filters. Here, a single filter is used in a simple voice with oscillator, sequencer and envelope, just to show the range of a single filter. Please note, I don't post-process the audio in these demos, so be aware there's a strong volume difference when I increase the resonance and gain. You can use all filters for independent voices. Here, filter B and C are used with sequencer, oscillator and envelope. Because only two filters are used, two LFOs can be added, modulating the mod X and Y input to add some extra movement. Other filters can be used separately for other effects. Here's the same two-voice patch, but the ping input is used to turn filter A in a kick, and filter D is self-oscillating to create glitchy percussion. Using the 4 filters individually is great for all sorts of multi-voice setups. Here, a single voice is copied 4 times. A variety of oscillators is used, and each has their own sequencer and envelope. All 4 voices are panned a bit in the stereo field. You can experiment with cross-modulation. Here, a tempo-synced envelope is modulating the cross-mod amount. The setup is great for all sorts of polyphonic patches. Here's the same setup but slowed down a lot. 2 LFOs are used to modulate the mod X and mod Y input, which have attenuators, and each one is modulating 2 filters at the same time. Each filter pair is very flexible and powerful, and great for things like classic dual filter setups and stereo sound design. Here, filters A and B are used as a pair. A simple voice is made with a single oscillator, a sequencer and envelope. In this setup, the filters are used in series, meaning the output of filter A is sent to the input of filter B internally. The output of B is used to listen to. Sync is used as well, and in this case the envelope is modulating mod X, so the filter cutoff of both filters at the same time. Subtle different settings make a big difference. Here's the same setup with bandpass and low-pass filter, but instead of out B, the sum output of the pair is used and sent to a VCA for volume control. An attenuated LFO is used to modulate filter A. Even though the sum output always is the mix of both filters, it still makes a difference if you use the filter pair in series or parallel. A dummy cable is used from mod B, so the LFO never modulates the low-pass filter. Filter pairs are great for stereo setups. Here, 2 waveforms of a single oscillator are used for inputs A and B. The filters are synced, set to A plus B, and both are in low-pass mode. Outputs A and B are used to create a stereo signal. An attenuated LFO is sent to modulate mod A, in this case without a dummy cable, so the LFO is modulating both filters A and B. Here, both filter pairs are used to create two stereo sounds. The left pair is fed a simple sequenced sine wave with some envelope modulation. To create a stereo sound, an attenuated LFO is modulating one filter directly, and an inverted copy of that signal is modulating the other filter. This setup is creating a more gentle, resonant low-pass gate-like sound. The second pair is sent another sequenced oscillator. A direct output is sent to input C, and a copy of the signal is sent through a delay and then input D. The fast delay time is modulated to create a stereo shift. The combined mod input is modulated with another LFO, and the frequency of that LFO is modulated with yet another LFO. Here's the same patch, but this time the mod X and mod Y inputs aren't used. In this case, the cross-mod section can be used to have both signals modulate each other. These connections are internal, but just to show, output X is modulating Y and out Y is modulating X. This is great for textured drones, especially playing with high resonance settings is nice. If you still want envelope movement, you can send an envelope to the envelope follower input and use the attenuators to distribute the signal over the two pairs. In this case, you can still easily use the cross-mod section as well. Here's the exact same patch, but with a stacked saw wave and square at the inputs. The tempo synced envelope modulating the cross-mod section amount is also brought back. The module is extremely suitable for experimental setups and self-patching, and even works great as a sound source or standalone synth voice. Here, the module with all filters is shown as one single graphic to make self-patching clearer. When you patch the output of a filter to its own input, the filter will self-oscillate and can be used as oscillator or LFO. Here, filter C is used. Filter C is used in series with filter D, which creates weirder patterns at the Y output, used to self-ping the module. The ping input is normal to the input of A, so now the output of the first pair can be used to listen to the percussive plug created. Playing with the filter cutoffs tweaks the percussive pitch and rhythm. Here is a more musical patch, creating a full stereo synth voice. Filter A is self-patched to create an oscillator. A sequencer is used to modulate A. This tracks 1 volt per octave pretty well, creating a simple tuned oscillator. The gate output of the sequencer is sent to the envelope follower. This is used by filter B to shape the sound of filter A. The output of B is sent to filter C, which is normal to D, so output C and D can be used to create a stereo signal. To add movement to that, an LFO is sent to an attenuator and then an inverter. A copy of the regular signal is modulating filter C, and the inverted copy is modulating filter D. This creates inverse stereo filtering. Of course, you can use both pairs to create a simple oscillator filter combo. Here, filter A and C are self-patched, and out B and D are used for the voices. In this case, panned hard left and right. One sequencer is patched controlling filter C and triggering the internal envelope follower. A second sequencer is used to sequence filter A and trigger an external envelope modulating filter B. There are lots of ways to create experimental percussion with the module. Here, the module is pinged with a clock from a sequencer, which creates a signal to the input of A and triggers the internal envelope. The signal is filtered by B, and that signal is used as the audio output. Filters C and D are self-patched and used as oscillators. These influence the sound when cross-modulation is applied. To create different sounds on different steps, the CV output of a sequencer is used to modulate filter A as well as the cross-modulation amount. This adds differences in texture beside the difference in pitch. Of course, you can also use the entire module with all 4 filters to shape a single sound. Here, the saw and sub-octave output of a single oscillator are mixed and used as the input for filter A. Filter A is used in series with B. The output of B is patched to the input of C, in turn used in series with D, and the output of D is used to listen to. All 4 filters are set to low pass mode and synced, so they all follow the first frequency knob and input. An LFO modulating A is used for some steady filter sweeping. A sequencer is tuning the oscillator and triggering an envelope. The envelope is used to modulate both the cross-modulation amount and the internal envelope follower. Here is a similar setup with sequenced oscillator using a saw and sub-octave as input for A, normaled to all 4 filters. Again, the sequencer is triggering an envelope feeding the envelope follower. This time though, none of the filters are synced. A and B are used in parallel and so are C and D. All 4 filters are set to bandpass mode. Out X and out Y are used to create a left and right stereo signal, each of them outputting the sum of each pair. To add some motion, 4 free-running LFOs are used to modulate mod A, B, C, and D. And one more fun sound design patch with the same input and envelope modulating the envelope follower. This time filter A and B are set up as synced high and low pass filter. The input sound is sent to both filters in parallel though, and an LFO is modulating mod X. This sweeps the filters and divides the input over output A and B. Output A is sent to a frequency shifter and then back to input C, and output B is sent to a self-modulating delay and back to input D. Filters C and D are used to filter the stereo sound in sync. A modulating LFO is modulating mod Y, and the envelope follower can be used to modulate the pair as well. There's a lot more to explore with this module, and I'm interested to see and hear what others will do with it. If you'd like to learn more, have a look here, and as always, smash that like, subscribe and bell button if you want to see more modular content from me. But that's it for now, thanks for watching and see you next time.